So what we're going to be covering right now, I'm going to describe as pre-cal forevers. You guys can change it in your table of contents if you want. We are doing like summer packet review, but making some forevers out of them. You guys should, if I stay super on top of things, see them displayed up there in your forever cards tomorrow. But basically, from the summer packet, there were lots of good things, but not all of them needed to be memorized or need to stay memorized. But there are some things that I need you to have like this. Does that make sense? And that's what the forever cards are for. Yes, there are all these cool things like Quizlet and online flashcards and yada, 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 yada. But still, in my brain, it's not the same as having like a physical representation that you can just flip through. So these forever cards, I will kind of explain them as far as writing them down in here in just a little bit. But first of all, we never go straight to the forever cards whenever we have forevers. Instead, we take them in our notes, in context, and then you guys on your own time copy them into your forevers. And have you guys ever heard anything about repetition? About repetition helping with memorization? Repetition of saying out loud, repetition of writing down, right? And to some extent there are studies too with colors, which is why I like the colored spirals. And also like with movement, if you're flipping the cards and if you're having to see a title and trying to remember and then looking, or if someone, you can just give them your forever cards to quiz you. All good things. So who's this dude? Yeah, the unit circle. However, I can't have him be an entire card, so let me show you first of all. This is card 1. This is card 1. Now, hold on. Are there way more trig identities from last year that I could have put? Yeah, remember that test where you had like a and then whew. Okay, some indifference ones? Sum to product, product to sum. Oh gosh. We don't have to know those ones. We don't have to have those ones memorized, but there are some that we do. Well, most of them are pretty basic, hopefully. So it's up to you guys. I can zoom in on them, except I don't think you actually need me to give you the unit circle. It's more like you get it in your notes like, oh, hey, I need to know it. Technically, you could put the cheater chart if you have gotten really, really good at using it. Technically, you could put the first quadrant if you've gotten really, really good at using it. But to be honest, for a lot of you, you should probably just throw the whole circle down. Now, you guys see how the card is set up, yeah? Don't go folding your forever cards. You're going to rip them. Don't do that. You're going to have to just kind of measure and estimate. But I want the trig identities on one side, the unit circle on the other. Let me zoom in on the unit circle with what information I want. If you guys notice, I have them in radians because calculus is all radians. Every now and then when we do like an intro physics-y thing, maybe there'll be a couple problems with degrees, but the entire AP test is all radians. So therefore, your calculator is going to stay in what mode unless some weird physicsy thing comes up for a second. Radian mode the whole year, which is kind of nice compared to pre-cal. Remember how you had to switch back and forth and back and forth? So if you notice, all radians as you go around. And then we have the ordered pairs. And what do the ordered pairs symbolize? So maybe there are things that you want to add to this as far as like signs, or all students take calculus, right? Maybe there are things that you want to put as reminders when you put this in your forever card. As far as like, hey, remember for a coordinate, my x and my y. X is cosine, right? Y is sine. Like you can put little reminders in here. You can always add to a forever card. Just be careful. I'm kind of showing you the short and sweet. I know some of you guys are waiting for the trig identities. I just wanted to show you what I want in the unit circle. Is that cool? Okay. Some of you might notice also that I tend to go fast, especially when we have a lot to do. And if I go fast when we have a lot to do, if I'm ever to the point where you're like, it's too fast, do I make you put your cell phones up in the charts on non-quiz or test days right now? No. Why? Those that have had me before, if it's something where I'm going too fast, I would like your phone to be close. And you can always like whoosh, whoosh, screenshot. I guess it's not a screenshot technically, but you can take a picture of the screen. Kind of a screenshot. And that way you can keep taking notes at your pace without being like, ugh, I missed it, ugh, I missed it, ugh. Can we go back? So if it's something where you notice that you're falling behind a little bit, or at least not able to catch up, you have two options. One is take pictures on your phone and keep going at your own pace. Two is now that my YouTube channel is working again, at least until next July, you can always go and access the video, once again, class resources in Google Classroom. You can slow me down, pause me, and catch up. Or there is in the class folder, once again, class resources, Google Classroom, a PDF copy of the notes that we take for the day. You can just go and catch up that way. So it's part of getting used to me as a teacher, as to whether you can just go little bit by little bit, or whether you need to look ahead and be like, okay, how much space do I skip? I'll get it later. Meaning, are you all going to have time right now to fill in your entire unit circle? Absolutely not. So if I were you, I would get the trig identities. I would put a title for unit circle. I would maybe even put in parentheses, okay, make sure I'm in radians, order pairs, look to the notes, and then fill it in later. Is that cool? Okay. And if you guys are one of those people, don't worry, I am. I totally have a nice little unit circle guidelines that you can use to trace if you want to do that at some point. But once again, probably don't have time right now. Come on. I know you guys are out there. If you don't need an outline, just pass it. If you don't need it, just pass it. But if you do want it, there you go. I know. You can go the smaller side, the other side smaller. Maybe we don't have those people. It's not bad for me to know. Does anybody want to use that as a guide? Did we already do messy circles and now we're like, oh well. Yeah. Already did messy circles. There's one. There's one. All right. Usually, guys, I label this as a forever and a number. And then I also usually, no, I should say always because I always do. Thank you. I outline it in yellow. Every forever card. That's a circle. That's awkward. Don't want a circle. All better. Actually do it, and I'd rather you get it in your notes and then that night as a way of reviewing what we did that day. Copy it in and take your time, because if you go fast, you're going to make a mistake. And if you do it in pen, you'll be really sad when you have to white out on a colored card. Kyle. Yeah. Great question. No. Another good reason that you guys didn't do your forever cards yet. Is this someone who did it amazingly? This is an old set of forever cards. I thought this person was a new set. This is a really old set. Okay, here, I'll show you on this, even though it's a little bit sad. Forever cards. Okay. When you open them up, you have a line side, right? And then you have a blank side. Okay. You have options as to which way you want to do this, but I'll tell you the way that I prefer. It's awkward, but I prefer you start from the back, and here's why. Because if you're using these to study, does it help your brain to see all the information and try to study it as you look at it? Pythagorean, oh, it's right there. Oh, sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. Ha! If you're like me, you can remember things like a split second, but you forget it 5 minutes later. So I can look at that and I could quote that formula, and I don't have it memorized. And if you ask me again in 5 minutes, I'll have no clue, but I'm able to say it in a second and be like, oh, I'm good. So instead, on one side is going to go titles. On the other side is going to go info. But it's up to you which way you want it. I like titles being on the nice blank side, and I like info being on the line side, because sometimes we have like big old definitions or, oh, hey, it's a note. Just kidding, let me find you one that doesn't have a note. Because there are ones that have like theorems, and so I like the lines for that. But some of you are like, no, I'd much rather the title on the lines, and then I'd much rather the info on the blank. You just have to choose a way. So if you want to do titles on the blank, start from the back like me. This will be Forever Card 1, and you can see the title and then be like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, I got it right. Does that make sense? So, ooh, I got it right, and then keep going, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Ooh, I got it right. Or I got it wrong. Is that cool? So, if I were you guys, on one side of the card, I would write trig identities, unit circle. And you could even put things like Pythagorean, reciprocal, double angle, quotient, and then those are the ones that you quote to yourself, and then check on the other side. Unit circle, you could say something like radians, ordered pairs, sines, and you could like quote them to yourself and double check you're right. Is that cool? But for most of them, this is like one of the weird ones where there's lots of different titles. For most of them, like the one I just showed you guys, that I just lost actually, it was called MVT for integrals. That's the title. On the other side is the theorem. Is that cool, Kyle? Okay. We do have these things called forever quizzes, where it's a quiz on the forevers. Let me get you guys forever card number 2. But this one's going to be a little awkward, so you might have to think about how you want to set it up, because that is forever card number 2. You're welcome. There are 16 graphs in total. You just can't see the tangent and cotangent ones. They're hiding. I would do 4 and 4 and 4 and 4. Nope, that won't work. I would do... What have I done? And why does it look so nice and neat, and yet it doesn't look so nice and neat there? No, 4 and 4 and 4 and 4. Yeah, that works. I would split the card in half, and I would do 4 and 4 and 4 and 4. That's what I would do. When you do your forever cards, when you do your forever cards, or when I give you a little bit of time to make it up, every time there's a forever quiz, there is an option that the bonus will just be, show me your cards totally up to date. So, is it good to keep your cards up to date? Yes. With you on forever quiz days? Yes. But do you need to carry them around literally every single day and have them in class every single day? No. Forever quiz days, bring them just because it could be a bonus. And theoretically, you should be like studying them all morning. But there you go. Okay. Now you guys might know why we have a graph match at the very beginning of the year, because last year, did we talk about a lot of basic graphs? 16 in total, actually 17, that's a little bit awkward. I'll show him in a squished way. Well, actually 16, 17, 18, 19, but I kind of do a couple all in one. Some of these are super basic, and some of you have already had to think through what the super basic ones look like. A constant one is of the form y equals a constant, which is going to be a horizontal line. Ooh, pretend that's horizontal. At some point in your graph. And to be honest, this is one of those times when you probably don't want to stress and get everything down right now, because you probably won't have time. Because I'm just going to start swooping stuff. Y equals x is the nice little straight through 0, 0, up 1 over 1, the slope of 1. Y equals x squared is our nice little parabola, our quadratic. But that could also be x to the 4th, x to the 6th, x to the 8th, depending on the window. X cubed is an odd function with origin symmetry. Square root of x hits at 0, 0, which looks like one of your graph match ones, but the graphing calculator just couldn't quite show the asymptote. A cubed root does not have a restricted domain greater than or equal to 0. P.S. This might be a good place to show that really cool domain problem trick that would have been nice on your summer review quiz. Cubed root, though, is all real numbers, so he actually just looks like a cubic function. Switched. Oh, it's because he's an inverse. Yeah? 1 over x is our nice little swoopy dude with a horizontal asymptote of 0 and a vertical asymptote at 0. But able to be positive and negative. But this one, wait a minute, hold on. Doesn't it look like I'm showing the same exact function, except what would make it a little bit narrower and make it all positive? A 1 over x squared. I didn't have a way of doing that typing. So it's a 1 over x and a 1 over x squared. The entire year is not about visualizing, but being able to have a basic understanding of what these look like will help from time to time, more than you even realize. So hence why we're making it forever card number 2. Absolute value of x, the greatest integer, is that weird one where if it's anything less than the next whole number, even if it's like 0.999999999, it rounds down, but as soon as it gets to like 1.0 and 1.5 and 1.9999999, it's all 1. And then it pops up 2.0 all the way up to 2.99999 is 2, etc. It's called the step function. I think last year, was it brackets? Was it double brackets? There's a few ways of showing it. ln of x. Swoop, there he is with the vertical asymptote. Good place to remind yourself the argument is greater than 0 for domain. E to the x is the inverse. Swoop, there he is with the horizontal asymptote. I just gave you another answer on the graph match. Sine starts in the middle, swoop, and keeps going. Swoop, and keeps going. Cosine starts at the top. Swoop, keeps going. Swoop, keeps going. Sinusoidal waves. $14, $15, $16. Tangent. If you get a tan, your color's going up. Well, red or brown or something. Tangent goes up with vertical asymptotes at 0 and pi over 2. Not bad to actually write some of this labeling down so you don't forget. But you don't have to do everything. Swoop, there he is. Cotangent. Your color's going down and he's been vertically translated. Oh, I totally did it backwards. Oh, you guys, how ridiculous is that? Hopefully no one was quite that caught up. That's awkward. Tangent goes through the middle. Because pi over 2 is here. Negative pi over 2 is over here. Those are his domain restrictions. Cotan is going down, but he's the 0 to pi dude. All based on their denominators if you want to go back to pre-cal and remember why. I told you there were technically 19 graphs. We've only done 16. Because aren't we missing cosecant? And aren't we missing secant? But why am I putting them up here next to sine and cosine? Do you remember? Because they bounce. Bounce. Color coding might be helpful. Bounce. 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 And what's in between the bounces? Vertical asymptotes. At all the intercepts. We can keep bouncing. So that's 16, 17, 18, and all we're missing is 19. And 19, okay, this guy's going to be weird. Tangent and cotangent, to put them on the same graph is disgusting, so I said no. But I am going to put tangent inverse, a random function the AP loves to test you on. Tangent inverse flips tangent across the y equals x line. It goes the other direction, and the asymptotes go the other way. They love asking this one because horizontal asymptotes are really limits to infinity, and so they love to make sure you know this random tangent inverse dude. 16, 17, 18, 19, forever card number 2. Guys, we did not get to introducing section 1.1 today, but that's okay. There are some explorations that have to go along with it, talking about the tangent line problem and the area problem that we briefly talked about last year. So maybe you guys want to peek at homework 1, but to be totally honest, and I usually am, it might not be worth it right this second. It might be better to update forever card number 1 and 2 tonight. Sound good? Cool. So if I were you guys, either using the notes online, remember, this is one big card. So cut your card in half. Cut it in half again, and then just get little baby. On the information side, on the title side, You can write out all the titles and be like, hey, quiz yourself. Do I know this one, this one, this one, this one? But you have to quiz yourself without seeing the information. So titles on one side, info on the other. Any questions about note setup, homework spiral setup, or forever cards? Are we cool? Kathleen? What do you mean? We're going to go in order. 1, 2, 3. Does that make sense? Oh, no. This is technically just like our pre-cal, so it's our summer packet, but we're not taking notes in our summer packet. So usually the forever cards are just going to occur naturally in the notes themselves. Does that make sense? Yeah. This one's just weird because it's a summer packet, so it wasn't like an actual review. So it's just kind of like, hey, let's get a couple forever cards, get them in the notes, get them in your forevers, and then life will look a lot more normal starting tomorrow. Cool? All right, guys, it's chapel day, yeah? So we're out of here? All right, get out of here. Although it's very quiet.